Okay, we'll go ahead and start. Sorry, I'm really bad on computer stuff. So if you guys can't hear me or anything, just let me know. So my name is Jessica Villalobos, and I don't like to call myself an herbalist, but I guess I am. So I've worked with herbs and food and medicine and plants since I was young, but I didn't really, really get into it until I was a lot older. So probably in my mid-20s, my early 30s, when I was, realizing I had a lot of skills that I never really used on anybody else, just on myself. My mom is from Mexico, and my great-grandma Jesusita was from Mexico. And my great-grandma was a curandera and also a midwife. And my mom works as a sobadora and also a curandera when she wants to. She's very picky. But I learned a lot through them, and I learned just kind of how to heal oneself and the people around you. And my mom did it very naturally, as did my grandma. And I think women in general tend to be very healing people. And as mothers, as sisters, we heal the people around us all the time without realizing. And so I just kind of want to talk about some of the things that I've experienced, why I use those things, and what they kind of do for me and for the people that I've kind of helped along the way. And it's not going to be just herbs. It's also, we're going to talk about an enzyme. We're also going to talk about restoring oneself through acupressure. And what I did is I picked about 4 different things plus some acupressure, and we're going to talk about those in a very simple way so that you can actually incorporate them. Because sometimes I feel a lot with the herbalism or with plants and medicine, a lot gets thrown at us right away, and then you forget everything, and then you don't do any of it, and then, you're not helping yourself. So I tried to make it very simple so that you can incorporate it, and then I can answer questions on what would work for you. And then I also want everyone to keep in mind that the presentation and this information is all educational purposes. It's all personal experiences with myself and those around me. It's not a substitute for any medical treatment. So make sure if you're going to incorporate any of these things to talk to your physician. So we're going to start. This is kind of a little something that I like to explain to people. We have midwives for when women give birth. And I feel that, like in Mexico, we call each other comadres. And a comadre is just somebody that they're just always there for you, like a friend. But it has more roots. Like when you say it, like you're my comadre. And a lot of people always ask me, they're like, you're a healer, you're this. And I say, all I am is a midwife to get you through life. So I'll walk with you, I will help you, I will guide you, but I'm not going to heal you. You do that yourself. So this prayer is just really beautiful, and I kind of want to recite it so that you guys remember that when you're seeking help from around you and you feel like those things are going to heal you or somebody else will heal you, that you yourself, you have that strength, you have that power. You just have to learn how to use it. And if you need someone to hold your hand, if you need someone to guide you, if you need someone to sit with you, then that's what your comadres are for. So reach out to anybody, whether it be a man, woman, but know that as healers, we're not here to heal or fix you. We're here to walk with you and guide you when you can't see. So I will not rescue you, for you are not powerless. I will not fix you, for you are not broken. I will not heal you, for I see you in your wholeness. I will walk with you through the darkness as you remember your life. So a lot of people always ask me, why herbs when there's so many other things that we could use? The thing with herbs, and that we have to remember as humans on this earth, is those things aren't here just to heal us. I'm sure a lot of you maybe like to garden. I don't know if you do or not, but when you see a plant that you might have indoors or outside, and you see that your plant is suffering or it's wilting, your first response is to find a way to restore its health, right? Well, we forget to do that with ourselves. So you have to treat yourself like you would any other living being, and you have to restore yourself from the constant stress and constant, like, how do I say this? The constant bullets we get thrown all day of, tiny things. And it might seem tiny, but your body and your spirit still absorb it. So we need to learn how to release those things back to the earth, back to the plants, back to the soil, because they restore us just like we restore them. So they're just not a plant that lives outside. A lot of these herbs and plants, mushrooms, they're around us because they belong to us and we belong to them, and we need to learn how to use them. A lot of times I feel like humans tend to feel superior to plants, to animals, when in reality, we're on the same level and equal, but we just all offer different things. So let's see here. So the first plant I want to talk about, it's a very easy herb to get. It's accessible, and I've used it for many years, not just on myself, but other people. And it's called holy basil or tulsi. And normally when I can hold a class with people, like, one-on-one or live, I usually bring some tulsi tea, because I would recommend that all of you just go out to the store and buy some loose tulsi tea and smell it. Just the smell itself is going to restore your spirit. It smells heavenly. I love growing it because it grows like crazy. And I feel that when a plant grows really strongly and it kind of adapts anywhere, it's a strong plant, but it also knows that we need it. So it offers itself to us constantly. So the one thing about holy basil is it has antimicrobial properties, antioxidant properties. It's great for blood sugar, and it helps with overall infections in the body. The biggest thing is it's an adaptogen. And an adaptogen is, what it does is it helps control like cortisol levels in the body. And tulsi specifically does that. So it helps either up your cortisol levels if they're not high enough, or lower them if they're too high. And in general, I would say ours are probably always too high. And the best way to know if your cortisol levels are high is you start gaining weight in your midsection. And if you see it and you realize that you're constantly tired, sleepy, you're probably having issues with cortisol levels. And the reason that we release cortisol so much constantly is the little stressors in life. So, you're late for work, you hit a red light, your body releases cortisol, you're stressed. So it does this constantly throughout the day. And if we never restore that, if we never get rid of that cortisol, then we carry that with us constantly. And then it just keeps adding. It's adding to a bank that we don't want to have a lot in. So it really helps boost metabolism, and it helps give that energy, because it kind of helps control hormone levels, but without affecting hormone levels in a way that it ups estrogen and things like that. It's also been used for patients in cancer after all of their treatments, and chemo and radiation. It's used, I think they started the study 3 months after, then they would use it for people that had strong radiation, and they found that it brought those radiation levels down pretty good, and it helped people restore from that. So the best way to use Tulsi is a tea, but a lot of people prefer tinctures or capsules. But the reason I say tea is because it's not just that it's good for the body, but it smells good and it tastes wonderful. It's in the mint family. So the flavor is amazing. So it kind of, you want to keep drinking it. And a good way to do it in large batches without affecting the components of the tea is to do it cold. So just buy some loose tea, or they now make a lot of Tulsi tea in tea bags, and you can just put it in a cold jar, leave it overnight, and then just drink that throughout the day. In that form, it's pretty mild, so you're gonna get enough Tulsi, but it's not gonna be too much. So this is what we're talking about with adrenals. Adrenal fatigue, it gets to a point where your body says, I can't control the cortisol. I'm making too much, or I'm not making enough. And so it no longer regulates. So that's where you start. If you have high cortisol, you have high blood sugar, a lot of digestive problems. Have you ever noticed when you're stressed, your stomach starts hurting? That's going to help with that. Thyroid issues. As women, we know that's a huge issue. And your immune system is lowered. If your cortisol levels are high, those are stress levels. So that's your body saying, hey, there's a lot going on right now. And so I can't do anything else but focus on this. So your immune system is lowered. You can't sleep, and you start gaining weight, like I said, in that midsection, and that's really hard to control. So in order to regulate, Tulsi does what is it? How to explain this? It kind of helps induce the changes in the cortisol. So if it finds that your body has way too much, it'll actually reduce your cortisol levels naturally by starting to get rid of it through the body. It's also a central nervous stimulant, so it's really effective in stress. And some studies even found that it was just as effective as some antidepressants that are on the market. So again, Tulsi is wonderful. It's easy to use. It's a wonderful tea. So I would recommend incorporating that. And we can talk about that at the end, like what's going to be easiest for you. So if you guys have questions, you can say, is a tincture going to be better? Is capsules? Is a powder? But I just always recommend tea because it just smells heavenly. So the next one we're going to talk about is a mushroom. I think mushrooms have become very popular, which is great. But we also need to talk about why they're popular and what they do. And one of the best ones to restore your body is the reishi mushroom. And the best way to take it is usually in powder form. So I tell people, like, if you do a smoothie, or if you do even coffee, I know it sounds crazy, you can put it in your coffee and it doesn't really taste like anything. So it's a really great one to use. So, let me go back. So it's really good at helping people. And I thought this was nice for Albuquerque. It helps your oxygen levels when you're at a high altitude. So that's another stressor that we don't talk about or we think about, especially living here in Albuquerque. We're at a really high altitude. So if you're exercising or if you're stressed, you're probably not getting as much oxygen as somebody that's, closer to sea level. So reishi is really nice because it helps bring those oxygen levels up. So like it says here, the studies in rats have shown that reishi can protect against stress-induced anxiety and exercise-induced damage to the muscle cells. And that's really important. Again, if you're exercising or you're stressed and you work a job where, you know, you're maybe not using your muscles as much. And then suddenly you go out and start exercising, or you go out for a hike. Taking reishi will kind of help restore, you know, your oxygen levels. It'll help restore your muscles. So that's a really nice one to use. The nice thing that I found about reishi too is it also helps blood pressure. And it's known to kind of help calm the nervous system. And you can see that both of these calm the nervous system, but they also do very different things. It's also an antioxidant. So it kind of, it neutralizes free radicals. So free radicals, you know, we're constantly exposed to, you know, smoke from cars, smoke from other people, you know, the things in our food, non-organic fruits and vegetables. Those free radicals are in our body constantly. So reishi kind of helps take those out and flush those. You have to be careful with mushrooms, especially. You want to buy quality product. And at the end, I'll talk about, there's a couple of herb stores in New Mexico where they locally source a lot of their things. And one in particular, they grow their own reishi mushrooms. So you want to source it from good quality places. And you also want to, when you buy it, try to buy it from a company that is reputable. Because, you know, you could just get any powder, and you really want to make sure it's something effective. And sometimes it can be a little expensive, which I completely understand, but, you know, take that time to put that into your body, because it really is going to make a difference. I've used reishi mushrooms for a while now, and it makes a huge difference. And the one thing about all of these things I talk about today, I have used these consistently, and I know that they are effective. So I can speak to what they've done for myself. So let's move on. This is a really cool plant that a lot of people don't know about. So living in Albuquerque, how many of you see this growing? And how many of you see trees with these flowers, like usually around July or August? You might not think you've seen them, but they're all over New Mexico. And they do great here because of the heat. And it's called the mimosa tree, also known as albizia. And in Chinese medicine, it's known as like the happy herb, the happy plant. And it's known to actually promote joy. And it's interesting with a lot of these plants or mushrooms or herbs, a lot of them have their own kind of spiritual energy. So as humans, you know how you meet somebody and you're like, oh, they're just kind of always grumpy. That's just kind of like their level. Or that person's, you know, really strong. Like they just exude the strength. Or this person's just always happy. You know, like if Allison was a plant, she would probably be the mimosa tree. Just she exudes joy. You know, I completely think of her when I think of this plant. And they grow everywhere in Albuquerque. So I say, if you ever see them and you do want to pick one or pick some and make a tea out of them, please make sure that no chemicals are used on that plant. So that's why I always recommend that you buy it from a place that is going to harvest it where there's not going to be any chemicals. Because as much as I love that people want to use these things, or if they see them, oh, I want to go pick some and use it. Just be careful, because nowadays it's unfortunate, but we have to be careful about what's going into those plants. So albizia, it's known as the mimosa tree here in the US. The flower and the bark are used. And what's interesting is the flower is known to promote more joy when used, where the bark tends to be more of a sedative and calming. So I thought that was really interesting, because when you look at the plant, I mean, if you look at it, it's just the cutest little fairy flower. And so I feel like it does bring joy. But the bark, when you think of a tree, it's very grounding and very strong. And I feel that the bark exudes what it presents. You know, it's rooted, it's strong, and it allows the flowers to kind of, you know, present themselves. And so Quercetin and isoquercetin are found in Albizia, and they believe that that's what brings the common effects. What's really great is quercetin and an enzyme that we're going to be talking about in a little bit. They're really good together. So again, these are things that you can use together, and they help each other. So I picked plants, I picked enzymes, mushrooms that will kind of work off of each other too. So the spirit of this plant, Albizia, I have to say, I have used this quite a bit with myself, and I've used it with people that are going through rough times, especially depression. And the difference that I've seen in people with this is quite amazing. And this has nothing to do with studies. This has nothing to do with, this scientist said this or that. I myself, using it and with others that have needed it, have seen a huge difference. And the best way that I've used this plant is through tincture or through tea. And sometimes when somebody is going through a really hard time and they need to restore their spirit, this is the plant I go to right away. I mean, it's one of those that when I think of this person needs joy, I go straight to this plant. So we'll talk more about it if you guys have questions about how do I use this and what do I do. There is a store in town that does, there's 2 stores in town, which is great, that do locally source it. So the last one I want to talk about before we move on to something different is bromelain. And I feel like this has gotten really popular, which is great because I've used this for years. It's actually the enzyme in pineapple. So it's a very simple enzyme. It helps not just in digestion, but overall inflammation. And it's really great, especially right now when spring is coming up for allergy season. Every time somebody comes to me and they're like, I have severe allergies, I say, I need you to get on bromelain right away. Bromelain or pineapple juice with some turmeric and a dash of pepper, and that'll kick out the sinus inflammation. And, with everything going on with COVID, I've told people, drink as much pineapple juice as you can, use that, because it brings all that inflammation out and kind of flushes things out. It's really great. There have been 2 people, my father and another friend, who had really intense surgery. And I had them on high levels of bromelain right before surgery and after. And the inflammation was almost none. So it really helps with inflammation overall in the body, as long as you're drinking lots of water. And it also really helps break down meat in the stomach. So if you know somebody that, eats a lot of meat, or they want to restore their digestive system, bromelain is wonderful. The best form to take it for a lot of people is in capsule form. But like I said, I tell people, to juice it and use the whole pineapple. I mean, not the outside, but the inside, even the core. And I always tell people to add turmeric because that also helps with inflammation too. And a pinch of black pepper. And the reason we want to do the black pepper is black pepper, it activates the turmeric. So you can take turmeric all day, but if you're not using it with black pepper, it's not going to be as effective. So again, if you're going to use a product with turmeric, make sure it has black pepper with it so that you're getting that activation effect. So we'll move on to the next. So people always say, what's the best way for me to take it so I get results right away? I say, take whatever you're going to do consistently. If you don't drink tea and you're not going to drink tea, then don't make a tea out of it. Don't go buy it as a tea, because then you're going to waste your money and you're going to feel deflated. So if capsules work for you, buy capsules. It's okay. You don't have to walk around with a teacup all day. It's all right. Use what's best for you. Use what's going to fit into your life so that you're using it consistently and you're seeing results. Because restoring the body, it doesn't happen in one day. It doesn't even happen in 1 week. I tell people it's a minimum of 90 days. So 3 months is when you start seeing the difference. And I mean, when somebody's facing an acute situation where they're going to go into surgery or things like that, I would up their levels of bromelain right before and after, and I'll see those effects, but I normally wouldn't go that high with anybody else. So consistency is key. Just like when you go to any other doctor and they say, hey, I want you to take this, and then 12 hours later you take it. The reason they tell you that is because there's a half-life in medicine. So if you don't take it in those 12 hours, it's going to leave your system and your body's going to have to, put it into your bloodstream again. Same thing with herbs, with enzymes, with plants, with mushrooms. You want to do it consistently and make it part of your routine so that you're seeing the effects. And if you want to kind of layer it, you can do that too. So maybe you want to take some capsules and then throw in some tea once in a while, or do pineapple juice, or do your reishi powder in your coffee or your smoothies. Do that. Sometimes incorporating it that way is a little bit better, but make sure you cater to what you're doing. You don't have to do what everybody else is doing. You don't have to, live this completely natural life and, everything, you're going to be consumed by it. No, make it a part of who you are. And that way you can start seeing the difference. So this is really important. I use acupressure a lot, and I love acupuncture. I love massage. I mean, who doesn't? But, with everything going on, especially with COVID, we haven't had a lot of access to that. It shut down a lot of, massage places. It shut down a lot of acupuncture places. So I've done acupressure on myself and others as a sobadora. So in Mexico, a sobadora is basically a massage therapist. So a sobadora, we learn from other sobadoras. We learn from other curanderas, and it becomes instinct, just like any other massage therapist. We go through the body, we learn, all the different parts and where to massage and not massage. But acupressure is something that sobadoras learn too. And it's interesting because it's an Eastern influenced type of thing, but in Mexico, it's used all the time. So I don't know the history of that. I'll definitely research that and find out. But it's a really, really, really easy and fun way to kind of restore your body at the end of the day. And I picked 2 points for you guys to learn so that you can do them consistently and see the difference. And if you feel pain when you're doing it, then that means that there's swelling there, there's inflammation, and that point needs to be worked on because that part of the body is being affected. So the reason I pulled up these two also is because they're in the hands and the arm, and it's the easiest thing to access. So if you can't make it to acupuncture, you can't go to massage, then you can sit quietly in a room with your tea, your juice, whatever you're doing, and you can do these things and throughout the day. Because, you can only go to acupuncture so much, and then sometimes your schedule gets busy, but acupressure, it's just you and your body, which is wonderful. So the first point you guys might know, it's the hand valley point. And it's, in that little area of the hand, right? So you want to go a little bit like right in here. There you go. And so you're going to press firmly. And if you feel that it hurts a little or it's a little tender, yeah, that means that you have a lot of tension in here. So it's one of the best ones for neck tension. If somebody experiences migraines a lot, you want to work on that spot constantly. And you also give yourself a break. When you work on that spot, work on it. I always recommend getting an oil with like some lavender or an essential oil that you like. and working on that spot, like right before bed is nice. And you do a firm touch and you hold it. You probably hold it for a while, or you just massage it little by little. So you can sit there. I mean, you can be having, lunch with your friends doing that, you know? And sometimes I've noticed, especially when I've had a client that calls me and they're having, a migraine issue, the first thing I say is start working on that point, and then I'll get there and we'll do more. But that point right away starts to alleviate. I've had clients who start working on that point, I get there, and their neck starts popping just because there's finally releasing all that tension that we hold here. I mean, you guys have to remember, our head, what weighs like 8 pounds on average? We're walking around with 8 pounds on our shoulders on top of all the stress that we experience every single day. So that's one point. And then the next point, a lot of people don't know about, but I use this point quite a bit. So it's your arm here. You're gonna do 3 fingers. And on this 3rd finger here, you're gonna hit the middle. And you're gonna feel, there's like 2 tendons right there. And you're gonna hit, there's like a tender point right there. You feel it? And sometimes if you don't feel it, that means that, you might not need that. But there's 2 tendons. There's one on this side and like one right in here. And you'll feel like a little tender spot. And make sure it's right in the middle. This is really good. Like, let's say you're starting to feel a cold come on, or you feel like you've had really rough days and your immune system is just low. This is great. And you just sit there and you just hold it, you massage it little by little. And it also, I've used it, like, it was interesting when I read this, it says it gives you a rush of energy. It does. There have been times where, I'm having kind of a rough day. I'm not feeling great. I just need a little bit to get through, and I'll work on those points. And it makes a huge difference. Yeah, see, mine are always pretty rough. So those are 2 really great points you guys can incorporate. And it becomes, I've noticed ever since I was a little girl, my mom would always massage us. So would my abuelita Jesusita. And so I was used to constantly touching your body and feeling what's, out of sorts. And so now I do it all the time. So I'll be talking to people sometimes and I'm like doing pressure points and people are like, what are you doing? And I'm just, working on myself. And I think it just throws a lot of people off because we tend to forget ourselves. We look in the mirror, people see us, but we don't see us enough. And part of restoring ourselves is seeing ourselves, touching, really feeling who we are and what's going on. Because when you've had, medical issues, when you've had a stressful day, you forget that you are in your body. You forget that you exist. You're not just a human walking around, a thing that needs to pay bills and do this. You are real. I know it sounds crazy to say that, but you're real. You exist here, and you have to take care of what you have. So then where are we here? So these are some of the herb stores I was going to talk about. That kind of ends the presentation on like the herbs and plants and mushrooms. But what we'll do is we'll have like a little Q&A, and then I'm going to talk about some of these herb stores and the ones that are accessible for people. So I grew up in Silver City, New Mexico, and my all-time favorite herb store, probably one of the oldest ones in New Mexico, is Bear Creek Herbs. What I love about them, because I am in Albuquerque now, is they will ship anything to you. So you can call them, you can order what you want, pay over the phone, and they'll ship it right to you. And they have a wonderful selection of locally sourced herbs and plants. They probably, I would say, next to another store I'm talking about, they probably have one of the largest selections of locally sourced I've ever seen. And they've been doing this for a very, very long time. So the next one I want to talk about is, it's a really great herb store here in Albuquerque. It's Old Town Herbal. They do a lot of locally sourced, and they're very knowledgeable. So they have loose tea, but they also have tinctures. So Bear Creek Herbs usually just has loose teas and a few tinctures, but Old Town Herbal has a huge selection of tinctures, of like oils. So even just going in there is a heavenly experience. So it might be really nice for you guys to visit and just walk in and kind of, I don't know, just take a look and kind of take everything in. Because also knowing where you're getting your things from is really important. So another store I like that's more mainstream is Natural Grocers. They have really great supplements. So like if you want to get your bromelain, your reishi mushrooms, that's a great place to get anything you need. They also have only organic produce. So if you want really good organic produce to kind of help restore your body with food, Natural Grocers is the place to go. One other one that I didn't get to put up here was here in Albuquerque called Red Root Herbs. And they have a really beautiful selection of albizia flowers, the mimosa flowers, and the bark. And the woman that runs it, Monica, is a wonderful acupuncturist. So that's a really good place to kind of go and, again, walk in, get to know the place. Just like you become a regular at different places, these are good places to go become a regular at.
What was the name of the last one again? Sorry.
No, it's okay. Red Root Herbs. It's right next to the co-op off of Rio Grande, if you're here in Albuquerque. Yeah, and that's it for the presentation. I hope that was enough, but not too much. But I can take any questions that you guys have.
So Jess, first of all, I just want to say thank you so much. That was super informative. And for those of you who jumped on after the beginning, Jess did a quick disclaimer early on just to say, if you're going to add anything to your, nutrition or supplement regimen, please check with your oncologist, primary care physician, your medical team first before doing that. So just to reiterate that. And then I also wondered if you saw, Jess, there were some questions in the chat.
Oh, okay, here we go. It doesn't matter which hand you work with, Allie. So I always recommend both, just because that way, it's always in massage. You're always going to work on both sides, never just on one.
Perfect, thank you. And then there were like a couple other ones above mine.
Yeah, so yes, I can send the slides to Allison, and then she can email them to you guys. Herbs for cleansing out chemotherapy and steroids when you're done with your treatments. A good one, like we had talked about, is the reishi and also tulsi, because tulsi has been known to kind of help flush out like radiation. So that would probably be helpful. I would probably wait a little bit after and then talk to your doctor to make sure that he's okay with that. The great thing about a lot of these herbs is I tried to pick a lot of them that have had scientific research and that have been used, that I've also used. So like I said, talk to your doctor, but the reishi mushroom is probably going to be one of the best ones, and your tulsi tea. Yes, you can have my contact information. I also would like in the future to do a live class, because that's a lot easier for me, because we get to play with plants and herbs, and I get to hug people. Because I think restoring each other, through just being in a group together is really helpful. And I can show you guys how to do other acupressure points. I can show you guys how to massage yourself or do things for yourself. So, I mean, I can talk to Ali and we can talk about, we can also expand on like adaptogens. We can expand on inflammation. We can expand on, what to use after treatments when you're done, or things like that. And I'm constantly researching. I have a lot of books that I use. I always try to go with things that have been scientifically researched, because that's important. And that way that your doctors also have access to things that they can kind of see and research themselves.
So Jess, you and I can talk more about this offline, but think about what might be the best time of year for you to do an in-person where we actually get our hands in the plants. I don't know if that's like spring at the beginning of planting season, or maybe it's early fall at the end of planting season, or, you know, what you think is ideal, but we definitely want to get that on the calendar.
Okay, yeah, I would love to. I mean, we can start with spring and then maybe finish off in fall, because your body needs different things when you enter different seasons. So when you're going into spring, your body starts letting go of certain things that it carries in the winter and the fall. And as crazy as it may seem, just the way that plants have a cycle, you know how they go dormant in the winter? Technically, we should be doing the same, but we don't live that way. So a lot of the things that we take on that we don't get to, you know, restore from, because really winter is a time to restore. It's the biggest restore for plants, for animals. You know, bears go into hibernation. Why couldn't I be a bear? You know, I don't know. But I think it's important to also talk about when you go into spring, there's some things that we need to get rid of that we carried into winter. And then when we're going into winter, we have to prepare, you know, you have to prepare for cold season, flu season, for a lot of, you know, stress, because you're going to see a lot more family. So yeah, I think it's important if we maybe did 2 different ones. I don't know.
I think that sounds great. We'll look at your calendar for maybe April or May for a spring one. Because I've already got the March calendar together, but we could definitely do April or May, which would be great. And then we'll talk further about when we can get one in on sort of late fall going into winter.
Yeah, and then Veronica I have a mimosa tree. So quick question, do you use any pesticides or herbicides on the tree?
No, I'm lucky if we water it.
Oh, well, that's great. Mimosa trees love that. I also work with plants. I love growing them and things like that. And mimosa trees are super hardy and strong. But so the flowers, when they bloom, when they're at their peak, like let's say they bloom and within a day or 2, you want to pick those, and you're going to pick them and just lay them out to dry. And you don't want them in direct sun, but just out drying, like in a cool room. And you just use them as tea. And with the bark, what I would recommend is if, you know, you ever wanted to prune a branch here and there that may be ruly, then you can prune that, and then you're just going to scrape the bark off, and you can use that whole branch as medicine. So the bark, you're just going to take it and you're going to steep it like tea. So again, you can do a cold tea, or you could do a hot tea. The thing about hot teas that a lot of people might not know, and I've encountered this a lot, is a lot of people will put herbs into like scalding water. And that basically kills a lot of the properties that they carry. So you want the water to cool, you know, not cool, but to be hot enough, but it's not going to kill everything off. So that's why cold infusion is kind of nice, because you put them in there. Or if you could start with warm water and then, you know, put it in the fridge and let it cool, it'll kind of take a lot of those things out.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And Jess, with cool water tea infusions, my experience has been more like 6 to 8 hours instead of 6 to 8 minutes, right?
Yes.
To really get a proper tea. Okay, so
Yeah, I
usually do mine overnight.
Yes, overnight is perfect, Allie. Yes. You want to, you know, do it the evening before. It's like beans. It's the Mexican in me. You know, you always soak your beans at night for the morning, you know, they're ready to go. So it's, you know, there's a lot of things that we should do at night, like make a routine and get your tea ready for the next day. You know, get your beans ready. So I hope everybody, I hope this was helpful. These things make me very nervous. I told Allison, I get so nervous. But I also just like teaching in front of other people. So, you know, the computers aren't as fun as it would be if I was in front of you guys. But just know that anytime, you know, I have an interaction with people, I always send out all of my love, you know, protection, healing, love. So I hope you guys carry that with you.
Thank you very much. It was very informative.
Good.
You
good.
did great. Thank you for the information. Love it.
Yes, use it. Please use it and let me know how it goes. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you. Just for, I
Yes.
have growing in my garden. I mean, they're dormant right now, like comfrey, a ton of different herbs. So we should get together because you might want to at some point do some harvesting. They're all organic. So
Oh, yes, I would love that. Oh my God. I'm like, if I could be with plants all day, every day, I would. So, I mean, yes, that's my, that's my gig. My husband likes to go out looking for fossils when we go out into the mountains, and I go look at plants, and he knows, just let her wander. Don't bother her. And then I come back and I'm like, I have a bunch of stuff I want you to harvest. He's like, why don't you do it? I'm like, because you're stronger. And I just point at things and you pick them for me. But yeah, you guys feel free. I'll give my contact info. I don't know if I should do it on here, or Allison can forward it to you guys. And
You know what, Jess, just go ahead. If you don't mind, I'll put it in the chat feature for the Hobnob invitation.
Okay. Yeah.
Just so it's not, out into the
Okay.
virtual universe.
Okay. And then, yeah, you guys feel free to email me, text me, call me if you have questions. Because I know sometimes it can get overwhelming and you're like, wait, what did she say? What did this? I don't know. And then before you know it, I want you guys to get to a point where it's instinctual and you're listening to the plants, because sometimes if something doesn't work for you, don't use it. Just because I said to use it doesn't mean you should use it. Always listen to yourself first. So I guess I don't know how to end these things either. So you let me know, Allie.
No, Jess, we're so grateful, to have had you, and thank you for sharing your time and talents with us. And I'm sorry we had a whole bunch of people that RSVP that weren't able to get on, but that's one of the reasons we record this, so everybody can go back and review it. So we will make the recording available as soon as you send it to me. Okay. And guys, I will also put the slides in the chat feature on Hobnob, as well as Jesse's contact info. And we will look forward to having you back in person because, just to throw this in there, Jessica also gives really, really good hugs. So it's more fun to have her in person.
Ellie has the best, but I feel like I can, I'm pretty, I can compete with her. She's got good ones.
So we will definitely have you in person so we can give you a squeeze in April or May.
Yay. Thank you guys so much.
Does anybody else have anything before we sign off?
You guys have a wonderful night and go restore yourselves.
Thank you so much, Jessica.
Thank you.
Thank you.